There we are. And we are live. Let me fix my screen here so I can see everything. Right. Okay. And we are live. Hello, everyone. We've got one person here now. Yay. So we are here. Thank you for being here. We are here. Wendy and I are here again to talk about past life therapy, past life retrieval, soul retrieval, and all that good stuff. Is that correct, Wendy?
Yes, one of my favorite topics.
Me too. I guess it's probably because we see how much it helps people.
You read my mind. It's
Mhm.
just it really can be absolutely life-changing and life-enhancing. So yes.
I agree. And I will say that my guide started working with me with this type of therapy in my meditations 20 years ago because I didn't know anything about it until then. And that's when I started understanding how really crucial it can be for our healing progress and to be able to let go of these patterns that we bring forward and understand them too. I think it helps us also understand why we are the way we are. And we'll get through all that stuff in our discussion. But thank you again for being here. Oh, hey, Mike. Mike's here, Mike Dinkle. Good to see you, a fellow psychic medium. We do spirit rescues together. Okay, so what we're going to do is go through some questions that clients have asked us or other people have asked us. And if anyone has any questions while we are talking and discussing, feel free to put that in the chat and we will get to them as we go. Let's do a
Perfect.
little, yeah, how about if we do a little introduction first though? Wendy, if you could just introduce yourself and share a little bit about yourself and where you are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm a past life adventure guide. And what I mean by that is I help people release energy that no longer serves them. Examples being pain, anxiety, depression, just getting you unstuck in life so that you can live that life that feels like it's filled with purpose and feel happy and healthy and really be in the now, because it's one of the top questions I get is, well, why do you do this? Why don't you just be in the now? Which fits in with what Sharon said at the beginning. That's a great concept if you're able to do that, but many people have some real impact from their past life energy to release, or might have wonderful past life abilities to be able to encapsulate and work with again now. So my website is my full name, which is wendyrosewilliams.com. And you'll also see my books on there. They're sold via Amazon and Audible, but you will see the information regarding them on the website, as well as various interviews and podcasts like this. I also do podcast twice a month with a co-host, Greg Kirk, second and fourth Sunday of the month, and you'll see that information there too. So thank you for being here with us.
Yes, nice. Thank you, Wendy. And myself, oh, hi, Sherry, and hi, Susan. Okay. My name is Sharon Sananu Kumara, and I am a psychic medium. I have a practice as a psychic medium in the Portland area and also a hypnotist, and I specialize in past life therapy and also recovering memories from contactee experiences and things like that. There's not a lot of hypnotists that work with people that have memories that they want to or don't or want to get to something that they might be afraid, fearful of someone rolling their eyes or thinking they're crazy, that kind of thing. So I work with people with that as well. And yes, past life therapy. I work with people in two different ways with past life therapy, through hypnosis and also through readings and guided meditations. And we can work together in any kind of way that people are comfortable. And again, I was saying a little while ago as I learned about past life therapy is what I like to call it, through my guides working with me in meditation and deep meditation. and helped me clear as many patterns as possible during that time. And at the time, I didn't understand what the heck was going on, but I learned. They helped me understand why I had certain blocks in life, certain patterns that I kept repeating, that kind of thing, and why I couldn't move forward, or why I was afraid of things, or why I had a lot of fears as well as a child, but that was for lots of reasons. But it was still a pattern that I brought forward so that I could clear and heal. And that's a little bit about me.
Did those patterns tie in at all, Sharon, with what I think of as archetypes? Because there's past life archetypes, like the ruler, the merchant, the servant, the unwell. Did they tie in with those at all?
None that I can think of. I mean, I'm sure there were.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of them were, well, most of them, all of them, I believe had a lot. Well, what I understand is I brought through a lot in this lifetime to clear because of where we are in our transition on the planet. So there was a lot of experiences that were very traumatic in my past lives and in the current life. So those were brought forward in that way. And as far as archetypes, I'd have to think about it. I'm sure there were, but I can't
Understand.
pinpoint them at the moment.
Understand.
Yeah. Mhm. Okay, so let's get started with some topic points and questions.
Want
Okay.
me to lead off with one of those and we can
Sure.
each
Sure.
answer? So
Mhm.
one of the questions that came up with is, can I have more than one lifetime that needs healing? What are your thoughts on that, Sharon?
Definitely. Yeah. I believe that what I have learned is working with my guides and my teachers and my mentors is that we have many, 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 many hundreds, if not thousands of lifetimes. Okay. That we've chosen to experience the physical experience, the human physical experience. And so we tend to choose challenging experiences for soul growth. And what happens is because they can be traumatic and we're in this dense frequency on the third plane, third dimension here, that if that part of us gets stuck in that emotional trauma, then that part of us gets fragmented, right? And so what soul therapy or past life therapy does is it is to help us retrieve that aspect that is stuck in that pattern and recognizing that. And so since we have many lifetimes and we probably have many patterns in our life that we have not been able to heal, because I know I was going through tons and tons of them in my meditations. And I asked my guides, sheesh, don't I have any good lifetimes that I chose? Where I just kind of skate, and they what I got from them was yes, but they're not the ones that are on the surface that need to be healed.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Because I
yeah.
agree, there can be those rest lives, those reward lives, those quote
Hmm.
vacation lives.
Right.
So I agree with everything you said. And there might definitely be a multitude of a certain type of lifetime. Like I notice a lot of clients with many lives as monks, as nuns, and they've
Hmm.
taken vows of poverty, for instance. So that can definitely be an issue because guess what? We're living in a capitalistic society, and that just does not serve us anymore because we're not being provided for. It's fine to take that vow of poverty when you've got the food, the shelter, everything's being provided. So there definitely can be those patterns, or there might just be those certain lifetimes that really jump out in a big way. Like maybe there's a handful of 3, 5, 6, a dozen, whatever the number is for you, of lifetimes. As you work with them, as you understand them, as you release them, as you embrace the useful parts,
Hmm.
and just process and make it a part of you again, as you said, that soul retrieval that fractured off from that wounding, and just those emotions, those strong emotions. So yes, I think it's a great question, and it's certainly true. Because some
Sure.
people have that misperception. Well, maybe I've lived once before, but they don't realize, as you said, Sharon, it's typically hundreds, if not thousands, of lifetimes. And those lifetimes too, they may not all be on Earth. They can be on
Right.
other planets and other dimensions. So that just brings in so much other energy with it.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. I like that you brought up vows of poverty. I found with working with people that when we take really intense vows, whether it's poverty or in anger and a curse or cursing someone or something like that, or even in a marriage or something like that, vowing, using the loving someone forever, which is fine, we will, but they tend to, I've found from my work, is that those carry over for quite a while because of the
right,
intense emotion.
that can just reverberate too
Hmm.
much, frankly.
Yeah.
For instance, I know of a client who she just had so many children, and her husband passed on early, and she just could not take care of all the children. So she was just so sad, because, dying of starvation and just not being able to care for them well, that she made a vow and said, I'll never have children again.
Mm-hmm.
So, guess what that led to in this lifetime? Infertility.
Yeah.
So it was just a big deal for she and her husband in this, happy marriage and good careers, and very much wanting and able to welcome and support a child well. But she had this old vow that she didn't know about. Her mother figured it out. So,
Wow.
because she was psychically aware of it.
Oh, okay. Good for her.
Yes, yes.
Yep.
All right. So, next question. How will I know if past life regression or past life therapy has helped me? How will I know?
Do you want to
That's
start
a
with that
million
one?
dollar question, isn't
I
it?
know, right?
Oh, yes, I'd love to start with that
Okay.
one. The way you'll know is your life will be different. You will be unstuck in areas where you were stuck. You'll be able to release fears and able to move forward in ways that can really surprise you. Just to and just to feel more love, be able to feel more joy, feel more here, feel more present, feel more together, to feel that your life has purpose. I've seen people heal incredible health issues and challenges, as well as some really problematic, toxic relationships,
Mhm.
whether it's with other people, whether it's with things happening on the planet, whether it's an allergy uh, to money and good financial flow. So simply, your life will be better. Your life will be improved. And it can be pretty magical, because when you start getting that energy moving in a positive direction, I mean, mind, body, spirit is very interrelated, very impactful. So as you heal your health, as you heal your physical body, for example, that typically is an opportunity to heal your finances if you've had issues in those areas, because health really is wealth,
Mhm.
in so many ways, and it can also just improve your relationships and so many things. So those are my
Yes.
thoughts off the top of my head.
No, totally. I agree. I found also that working with people that, and myself as well, that sometimes it can be the healing aspect can be subtle, very subtle. Where if
Yes.
we if we're having if someone's working on a relationship, say with their mother or something, and and then there's a soul retrieval that happens with that, where they find out what's where the beginning part, the initial lifetime was with their mother, whatever, his situation that was. And so that is retrieved and that is understood, and that starts to heal. And so bringing that into the light, which is how I work. So it can be subtle where maybe you're not triggered as much by your mother if she says something, or um, or your mother isn't triggered by you. You know what I mean? Things just start to happen naturally and organically sometimes, where we
There's
may
just
not.
more ease.
Yes, and we may not see this. Whoa, everything's just all of a sudden, better. My mother and I are best friends, but it starts happening. It could start happening. That could happen too, but it could start happening in a more organic and a easy, subtle way. And then I kind of equate it with, you don't really, when you have a headache, you have a headache, but when you don't have a headache, you don't notice it. So as things start to heal and you're not, don't have that tension anymore, then,
Right.
you may not notice it as happening from the retrieval, but things just start to get easier.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that's how a lot of my own personal growth when it, of course went through a quickening. So a lot of things happened very quickly too. But I noticed that with people too, and and clients, they'll tell me, after that soul retrieval, wow, my relationship with so-and-so was just so much better. And they called me out of the blue where we hadn't talked in years or something like that. So, or I don't feel attracted to eating candy anymore or something like that, you know what I mean?
Right.
So
More
things.
ease and grace is what I'm
Yeah.
hearing you say in a lot of
Yeah.
ways.
But that pattern we had just starts to dissipate, and it makes sense that, okay, we don't need to do that anymore. That pattern is gone.
Yes, yes, that's fantastic. And what you said about that lifetime of origin is just so
Mm-hmm.
important, finding that lifetime of origin where the energy, just that rift or that toxicity or just being um like overly too much trauma and drama around something that just doesn't have to be that big a deal, but it's like that infected splinter that just keeps getting more and more problematic. So it's just
Right.
very, very gently being able to get to what that origin was, and just saying, oh my goodness, that was then and this is now. And what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing again and again and again and
Right.
expecting a different, better outcome.
Yeah.
So that's why we've got to just cut those cords of like those knee-jerk type reactions, and just being able to raise our frequency and vibration gently, and
Mm-hmm.
letting go of the old patterns that don't serve us. And that just gives an opportunity. The other person can then choose to rise up too, or not. That's their
Exactly.
decision.
I love that because it's an agreement. It's an agreement between other people. We come here and we make these agreements and we choose these experiences so both sides of the equation can heal and move forward. And
Absolutely.
that was a lesson that I learned, or something that I remembered. I should say we're remembering these things, where
Re-remembering.
yeah, totally. As we work on ourselves, not only are we healing our own stuff, but we're healing, for our ancestry and those around us. And I've learned forward, backward, and all around. So it's really huge. I think I personally believe this is the most critical thing we can do for our healing process.
I agree. I mean, that starts to get into that family morphic field that
Mm-hmm.
Rupert Sheldrake wrote about
Mm-hmm.
and speaks about.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, I noticed a pattern. I noticed a couple of health patterns in my family that just I didn't think were positive. So I worked on healing it myself. For instance, I have scoliosis, curvature of the spine.
Mm.
My mother has it too. and both my daughters have it. So I thought, oh my goodness, what is up with this? That's quite a pattern, when you're seeing it through 3 generations so directly like that. So
Right.
I worked with a healer, I worked with an energy chiropractor on it, and we were able to just, lift that out and say, we just don't need this anymore, and we can just let this go. And just not be having impacts from this. And I really believe if my daughters choose to have children, I don't think we're going to see it in another generation. And same thing with, I
Okay.
noticed my mother had vertigo. My father has vertigo, and I was having some real issues with it at times too. And just happy to say, free of that. And
Nice.
again, worked to say, okay, what is with this? And that
Hmm.
was from just not being properly grounded and not being here, not being in the body, not being on the planet. And that was just leading to a lot of issues. So to, no longer be having that issue, it's a big deal, because it wasn't fun to never know when that was going to come on. And it would just be as simple as you'd go to sit up in bed in the morning and you either had it or you didn't.
Wow.
Just
Yeah.
wasn't fun. It just was not fun. Or it would suddenly be triggered, simplest thing, getting down on the floor to do some exercises or do some yoga. And all of a sudden it was like, wow, now I've lost my orientation again.
Yikes. Yeah.
And I also found that I choose to ground daily, not only to Mother Earth, but I choose to ground to some of my favorite planets, other
Mm.
planets that I really relate to and remember. And that helps me be much more stable. And that's just me. That's just a personal practice of what works for me as a star seed, as someone
Hmm.
who remembers a lot of incarnations on other planets as well as on Earth.
That's a good idea. I love that. I never thought to, because I've had lifetimes on many planets that I don't even know what planets I've had lifetimes on.
Sure.
I just
And you don't
wake up
have
out of
to.
body. Yeah, I just
Right.
wake up out of body, and I look
Right.
down and I'm lying in a human body. I'm like, okay, this is a very different planet. So,
Surprise.
right?
Look at you.
I know,
Yes.
right?
I just
That's a
ask
good
my
idea.
guides what to do. And they're like, okay, you've maxed grounding to the planet, but now we want you to. And I was like, okay, which ones do you want me to ground to? So they told me 4. So I literally ground, I kind of picture those 4 around me. And it is much more stable, versus picturing grounding down to one place. If you had 4 more around you, that's really a stable
Wow.
geometric
Yeah.
structure like
Hmm.
that.
Nice.
So it just feels good. And bye bye vertigo. You taught me a lot, and I do not miss you.
Nice. Yeah, yes, I'm sure. Well, good for you. I'll have to get with my guides on that. That's awesome.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Any live questions for us, Sharon, or shall I move on to the
Does anyone
next
have any
one?
questions they would like to type into the chat? Give them a minute. Or we can go on with another question
Sure.
while they do that, if
Sure.
anyone has any.
Absolutely. So the next question is, why would I choose to have painful experiences? What are your thoughts there, Sharon?
Yeah, I get that all the time. Like, what
That's a great
what
question for
yeah,
you.
yeah. Why would I choose this? I even asked myself that. Why in the world would I choose all these awful, terrible, traumatic experiences? And like I said earlier, but I'll expand on a little bit more what way I understand it is that we're light, we're spirit, we are light in our bodies, right? So in our home form, we don't have any challenging experiences. We don't have any negative experiences or anything like that. We are love, we are light, and we that's the way we exist. So we were coming to this planet and other planets, and dropping down in frequency to Earth and other planets, if we choose to do so, and having challenging experiences. I call them challenging experiences, is for growth and to have that experience so that we can bring that experience into the source, because we are source experiencing. We are God experiencing, we are love experiencing. And so bringing those challenging and painful experiences, which we call painful, because there's really, the way I see it is they're really in source's eyes, good or bad. It's just two polar opposites, negative and positive, dark and light, that kind of thing. And so we choose challenging experiences so we can grow and experience that and learn from it. And also I find that it's we become empathetic when we have these challenging experiences and we understand when someone else is having similar experiences. And so it helps with judgment and not judging people and things like that, or judging situations, because we've been there, we've done that. So it's what I understand is having painful and challenging experiences is a very huge learning curve for us, rather than just skating through a life and not really having anything that we can learn from or grow from and bring that into the whole. So we're here to experience everything there is to experience, from the murderer to the murdered, and hopefully we only do that one time, but and everything that we can experience. That's my understanding.
I agree. That's a great take on it. And yes, what I'm trying to remember, is it coal that under extreme pressure, I may not have the right element, that becomes a diamond
I
over
think it is cool.
time.
Yeah.
So it's just this extreme pressure. So we're all diamonds in the rough.
I love that. Yes, we
And
are.
as you choose to, because it's your opportunity, so you're having a really challenging experience. You have your car gets totaled, maybe there's an injury, a relationship you really care about and don't want to end, the other person chooses to end it. Someone passes on, the job loss, or the door closing. You thought you were going to be published and had that agent and that contract, and nope. It's just, I think some of those things have to happen for us to just choose and say, okay, I just need to let that go, and obviously that wasn't for me, and or it's just run its course. It's had
Right.
it's had its time, and now let's just rest and reassess and just open the doors for something better. I mean, it's a choice. Or are you going to go and drink too much and move into this pit of despair, or whatever negative coping mechanism? And I don't mean to speak unkindly, because yes, we've all done it. We've all, whether it's the overworking, or just whatever it might be, or just deflecting and not dealing with XYZ because it's just too much at that time. But it's our choice. Can we be that beautiful phoenix, like in Harry Potter, one of the films where Professor Dumbledore's phoenix burst into flames just as Harry walked by, and he thought, "Oh my gosh, I killed his bird," and he's thinking it's his fault. But within moments, like that beautiful new egg and that new baby bird was just rising up all shiny and new. So it's just a choice. How can we
Right.
do our best to up level and rebuild on higher ground?
Right.
So,
Yeah. I will add too, Wendy, before we move on, we do have a couple questions. So
great.
also what I've learned with challenging experiences is when we choose them, the idea is to resolve them within that lifetime. And if we don't, and it's easy to get stuck in the emotional heaviness
Angst.
of them. Yeah.
The soup.
Yeah, there you go. And that's what happens. And that's why we end up needing soul retrieval, because when we die, we get stuck in that pattern. And, that cycle, like you were talking about, the definition of hell is doing the same thing over and over and over, expecting a different result. And that's what happens. What I see energetically as well is when different parts or aspects of ourselves, and even in spirit rescue, which is pretty much the same thing, get stuck in that pattern, hoping that it will change by doing the same thing over. That part of us becomes a ghost. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
yes.
That was my second book. It was very surprising to me to learn the identity of this colonial American ghost that was
Mm,
on my property. And yeah,
mhm.
it just was a big deal to do that soul retrieval. But
Nice.
boy,
Yeah.
just incredible outcome and
Beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah. So we do have a question here, Carissa.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Okay. So what is the best way to connect with your guides? And then she has meditation question mark.
Sure. Do you want to take that or shall I?
Well, I'll take it to begin with. Yes, I would say
Okay.
yes. Meditation is the best way to connect to your guides. Definitely. We need to have some way of them being able to, some opening and listening and quietness in order for them to be able to communicate with us. And I know it's a lot more difficult now than it was for me 20 years ago, even myself. But but we have to be disciplined with that. They also send us signs. You can ask them for signs and things like that, and let you know when they're around. But meditation and also journaling or automatic writing is another great way, which is what they taught me. Um, and yeah, I think those are the best ways.
I agree. That's one of the things that I do with clients specifically during their past life regression is we go to a healing temple
Mhm.
and then it's something they know how to do for themselves and I help them connect with their guide.
Yes.
And once you're able to do that, it's just such a big deal to be able to meditate, to auto write, also to be open to receiving messages from your guides in your dreams
Yes.
and just paying attention to anyone in your dream who has a title, whether it's a teacher, a doctor, an Uber driver, a hotel clerk, whatever the title might be, that's a guide.
Mhm.
So pay particular attention to what that guide is saying and doing and what they might be encouraging you to do. For instance, I went through this series of dreams. It's really humorous looking on it now. I needed to just lighten up and get rid of some old beliefs and some old habits that didn't benefit me anymore. And I kept having these dreams. I was either at the airport and I can't find the right gate. I, can't get my luggage organized. Same thing with going on trains.
Mhm.
And there'd always be this super helpful guide that would come in as some sort of employee, and they would offer to help me get where I needed to go, but they'd say, you need to go without your luggage, let it go, we'll take care of it for you.
I've had
Couldn't
that
that
one.
have been more obvious?
I have
But
had that dream.
I
Yes.
had to go through it about 6 different times in 6 different ways. Another time it was like a bus, and don't go back for your old luggage. Don't
Yes.
insist. Let it go. Let it go. Just keep going forward and, catch your flight, take your bus. You'll figure this
Mhm.
stuff out later because you don't really need the stuff. That's the whole point. They're trying to separate you from it.
That is so funny because I think I had a dream like that recently in the last 6 months or so, where I had my little bag, my luggage with me, and I can't find my luggage at the airport. I can't find it. Someone took it, and I'm looking for my luggage. And someone was volunteered to help, but I ended up not finding it. So it was obviously a good thing.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
But
So
it
I mean,
is a common one.
that can't be any plainer than
Right, right.
that's pretty
Exactly.
plain. Leave your baggage
Exactly.
behind. So we have another question from Sherry. She says, I am feeling stuck in my meditation. When I set the intention to experience my past lives, many times I will instead find myself in a scene from earlier in this current life. Any tips?
Oh, my tip would be go with what's being presented for you because
Mhm.
that's the energy flow. So just go with that because there's a reason for it because your higher self, your own soul is brilliant as are your guides. So just go with the flow. And once you clean up those scenes from the current life, then some of that past life energy is very likely to come in to then be lifted up too. But I would just, I wouldn't fight it. I'd let come in what's going to be the most healing and information for your life today is how I suggest it to clients as we're working on it. And it certainly may be this lifetime.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I actually had that problem in the beginning, the same problem, Sherry. And I was not able to go to a past life. And all I was doing was going to scenes in my current life. But I couldn't get very far because I'm like, well, I can't see anything. I can't see anything, it's my current life. But my guides helped me understand that we needed to get through that. Just like you said, Wendy, exactly. Needed to get through whatever I needed to see in this current life in order to
Right.
move. It's some kind of a block
Right.
that's prevented me and preventing you, I'm sure, from getting further, I guess you could say back, but into other lifetimes.
Sure. And that's exactly what a past life regressionist helps you do is helps you change the focus. Because if you're feeling like, oh, I can't see it, I can't see anything, it's just flipping it around. Well, what do you feel? What do you
Mm-hmm.
hear? What do you sense? What do you know? It's just focusing on whatever information and sensory input there is, what experience you are having versus the I can't see anything, because it's not always the IMAX theater. It's not always 70-foot tall
Totally.
as clairvoyance extraordinaire.
Right.
That's not how a lot of us pick up information. Nor do I think I would want to see some of those scenes that big and that bold. I think that would be kind of overwhelming.
Yeah.
So it just comes through, and we can hear too. So it's just shifting to what you are experiencing and what you can see and sense and feel and know.
Yeah, I love that. And I actually teach that in my class too and tell clients that as well. So I think that another little block could be also not trusting what you're getting, and that was something I dealt with too. And so especially if you're doing this in meditation or even in a hypnosis state, or a trance state, that a lot of times we don't trust it if we're not seeing anything. we're I always say, like you say, go with what you feel. What do you sense? What are you sensing? Yeah, so you could be sensing many
Smell,
different things.
taste.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, but trust whatever you get, because the more you trust it, the more the information will flow. I found that the more that we dismissed what we were getting, our channel constricted. And if we trusted it and just went with it without judgment, without, put our judge and jury aside and just trust it and let it flow, then our channel widens and we get more information.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
such a great point, because otherwise it's like we're blocking the information. It has nowhere to land. So that
Right.
makes perfect sense. It constricts, it restricts. For
Yes.
instance, I've had some of the most amusing guides show up for people, and it's just whatever's going to resonate for us. And yes, it can morph and change over time. It can be symbolic. Like I had one gentleman say, "Oh, I must not be doing this right." Because he says, well, the guy looks like he's somebody out of ZZ Top. He's like got this super long beard and he's really rough looking. And I was like, that's okay. Let's just talk with him. Let's just see what he has to say. And he was a very insightful guide. And he did then introduce him to another guide that was
Wow.
just
Nice.
perfect. So sometimes they're a segue also. Like I had another person say, oh, well, they're like coming through like Elmer Fudd. It's like a cartoon character, or they'll name someone from a movie, that sort of thing. It's like, just go with it, and just see where it leads us.
Yes. I had an experience. It was actually an out of body experience where I ended up in a canoe in the middle of a lake with a gentleman. His name was Sal, and he was smoking a cigar, and he was a heavy set man, and I'll never forget him. And and he was a guide for me, which that one time, I I recognized him. My soul recognized him, but my conscious self here did not recognize him. But in that experience, he was there to help me with something that I was having trouble with in my life. And so it was a very profound experience, but I never would have expected someone who's, and he spoke with an Italian accent. So he was kind of mafia looking, you know what I mean? And smoking a cigar, big fat cigar, stogie. And this big heavy set guy was there to be my guide for what
Right.
I had going on.
They
So you
don't
just
all
never know.
come, they don't all come in looking like these airbrushed angels, you know?
Hmm. Or the beard and the long hair with the wise man, kind of look, which is great if you get that. That's, a lot of times they will show up like that, but
Right.
you never know how they're going to show up. And
Exactly.
I always
Exactly.
say, always go with how you feel with that
Mm.
being. If you feel good around them and they're making you feel good, then that's authentic. But if you don't feel
Yes.
good, then
Yes.
you might want to
Yeah,
end the
I
experience.
agree. It's
Yeah,
very rare. I'd say it's maybe 1% of the time,
yeah,
just the person's just not resonating with the guide, and they're like, I just don't like them. I don't feel like they have my best interest at heart, or I feel like I've outgrown them, or I've
yeah.
been trying to get rid of, that sort of thing. It's like, that's perfectly valid. So then let's call in a new guide because we
But I
want the
bet you
highest and
that's
holiest.
because, yeah, and I bet you that's because there's something that guide is working with them on that they may not want to touch on or
Fair.
work on.
That is so fair. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a great comment. Something they're just not quite ready for or
they're
avoiding. So,
resisting that we
yes,
would resist.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And we know
Okay.
what we resist persists.
Yes, it does.
So,
So Sherry
but
says, thank
yes.
you. You're welcome, Sherry.
Oh, good. All right. And did we okay, so we talked about how seeing a past life can heal my present life. Can I do this on my own? That's a great question. You want to start with that, Sharon?
Yes, I know you can because I do. And I teach people to do it on their own. And we used to have the ability to be able to do it on our own. We used to know how to heal whatever patterns and things like that we had going on within us, because no one knows you better than you know yourself. So yes, you can. And like we were talking about, it's uh, it's it takes discipline, and it all you need is the tools, and that is just going into meditation, going to a light trance state, learn how to meditate, and going into a trance state, be disciplined with that, and communicate with your guides and your higher self, and ask them to help you with past life soul retrieval and healing any patterns. State your intention, and yes, you can definitely do this on your own.
Mhm. I feel we can accomplish a lot on our own,
Mm-hmm.
but it can be difficult to heal ourselves. Because guess what? We've got all those blocks,
Mm-hmm.
and having a second person to help you build and hold that sacred space, and also, they've just got a lot of knowledge to share, and they don't have the emotional investment in. For instance, I have a fair number of people that come to me and they're considering ending a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a big decision.
Sure.
Or they're going through the decision, should we be having children together? Or they've made the decision, we are divorcing. How do we make this be as peaceful as possible? So having that neutral person to help you, really get your higher self flowing through you and speaking through you, and your guides, I think can be invaluable for those big, big crossroads in life. Or someone who is starting a business or is recently lost their job and, just feeling a lot of angst around it, or the big health crises.
Mhm.
So yes, I mean, I work on myself daily. Does that mean I'm perfect? Heck no. It just means the more I do, the more I find there is to do. And you just have to have a sense
Right.
of humor about that. The more I learn, the less I know that I know, because there's just more and more. And I think that's part of the fun of it. We never get bored. But I personally, I choose to work with healers. I have my own past life regression sessions with healers. Do I meditate? Do I auto write? Do I keep track of all my dreams? Yes, absolutely. I do all those things. But my personal choice is that's not sufficient for me, because I just want to live my really big life mission and life purpose and have a lot of fun doing it. So I definitely use some strategic help.
Yes. No, I agree that sometimes we need help. I mean, we're all here together to help each other, right? Yeah. But I'm not going to say, but I also believe that we are going through a time on our planet where we need to learn how to work on ourselves. We need to help. Well, we need to help each other, and help each other remember how we can work on
Oh,
ourselves. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not about getting your psychic reading of the week,
No. Mm-mm.
or your Reiki healings twice a week. It's like, what are you doing in the interim? How are you progressing? How are you learning and maintaining and
Yeah.
and just rising up from that. I have a friend who has gone and done ayahuasca
Hmm.
in South America several times, and I think he's been twice. And he said he noticed some of the same faces there, and he went maybe like 5 years apart. And when he spoke with the other people, they're like, "Oh yeah, I come like twice a year. Can't live without it." But they
Mm,
weren't doing anything in between. It was
yeah.
just then went back home to like same exact life, same exact lifestyle, didn't make any changes, and then figured, oh, I'll go clean it all up
Yeah.
in ayahuasca ceremony. It, again, it's a
It,
choice. It's not one that works for me,
yeah. It seems to
but
defeat the purpose.
right, right. So he was
Mhm.
he was noticing that and thought, oh goodness, I'm choosing a different path with this. So it's a very strategic decision to go, and I'm doing it rarely,
Mhm.
type of thing. So, but we all make our own choices, and we all have our own
Yeah, it's
good
all
road to
good
follow.
stuff, definitely. But we're at a time now, and I mean, everyone is here now for what's going on now, right? So we're
Hmm.
only in the now. So we're here
Hmm.
to, for now. And it's very, and my guys keep telling me this, and it keeps coming up in my work, is it's really, really important for us to be able to go within and not be so focused on our projections
Right.
and what's that all that. So
You
we
don't want
have
to
we
give.
have to spend time going within.
Absolutely. I mean, you don't want to be
Yeah.
giving your power away of fix me, heal me. That's
Mm-hmm.
not what it's about. I mean, you're
No,
you're
you're right.
working with someone to do your own healing. You're
Mm-hmm.
working with them to facilitate that. And you're
Right.
going within messages so right on, Sharon. I think that's a big part of what COVID was for.
Mm-hmm.
Was it forced us into this big timeout where we did have the opportunity to go within and to really be a lot more reflective and get more back to basics and get more back to nature if we chose to.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people did use their time wisely to do that.
I hope so. Yeah, because, and this is again what we were talking about earlier about choosing challenges. I mean, the planet, humanity as a whole, is going through a quickening right now, and so when we go through quickenings and awakenings, we bringing up our stuff, and and so this is part of bringing up our stuff so that we can clear it and heal it, right?
Mhm.
And whatever's going on now is all the stuff that's been buried for a very, 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 very long time. And so it's coming to the surface so we can heal it and clear it. Humanity as a whole is going through a transformation.
Mm-hmm.
And we do that on a personal level. So as we're doing that on a personal level, humanity is doing that now, because planet Earth is moving up in vibration very rapidly now. She's been doing it for quite a while. And so it's it's either
it's a massive purge. I mean,
definitely, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
tsunamis, it's the floods,
Mm-hmm.
it's COVID, it's just, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And will I need more than one past life regression, or are there some live chat questions, Sharon?
Well, you need more than one past life regression.
Yes.
Well, that depends. I say that depends on you, on the person. It depends on how much work you want to do and how much you think that you can do on your own. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. And I have some people who certainly, sign up and do one session, either the 2.5 hour or the 4 hour session.
Mm-hmm.
And other people are doing the 3 month program where we start with the 2.5 hour past life regression and then go from there.
Mm-hmm.
And some are doing a 1 year program. So it just depends. Are you really spiritually seeking? Are you looking for that spiritual mentoring? Where are you in life? What's really calling your name, and what are you wanting to do? And I find it's so neat that the people that want to or are able to do the one session to start, they might choose 6 months down the road, a year, 2 months, or 2 years down the road. Oh, now I'm ready. I do want to do that 3 month session. How do I now do that? And it's so neat because the higher self and guides, I feel like they put like a pin in it, and nothing is lost or repeated. We just like pick up right where we were and just, kind of layer in and work with where they're at. But I just think that's so neat because I've noticed that in my own sessions as the client,
Mm-hmm.
where, perhaps I haven't had a session with at all, or with that certain practitioner for quite a long time. And like I said, the pin just gets pulled out, and you just start working again, and in the
Yeah.
best way. It's super
I love that.
fun.
I love that analogy. It reminds me of a lot of my experiences where, communicating with guides, or having out of body experience where I meet my guide there, and it's it's like no time has gone by.
Correct.
And it was like in my near death experience as well. And I've heard this in near death experiences, and you may have felt that too, Wendy, with yours. Is it's like there's no time has gone really by, just a blink of an eye. And when I was communicating, this is really funny, but I was communicating with my guide on a spirit board of all things. And I started talking to my mom after she passed on a spirit board. It was an angel board. And so she brought my guide in, and to communicate with me, and he would ask me questions, and so I'd try to get the answers to the questions. And if we had to end the session because I had to make dinner or whatever, I don't know. And so when we'd come back and have the conversation, he would pick up exactly where we left off,
Exactly.
no matter what happened in
Exactly. It's
between.
just magical. It's just
Mhm.
it's just amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah, like I said, they just put a pin in it, and it's like they know exactly exactly where you were.
exactly. I know, it was beautiful. Susan, I don't know if that's a question. I think now it was OBE, so I'm not sure what you mean by that, Susan, because I don't see anything else. But okay, if you
Maybe she
could
can add to that comment
expand on
about
that, yeah, if
about
it's a
out of
question.
body out of body experiences.
Yeah.
Because yes, Sharon's had plenty of them, as have I.
Mm-hmm.
So happy to talk about that. All right. And how long does the session last? So for me, clients are doing either a 2.5 hour or a 4 hour. Occasionally, life between lives session,
Mm-hmm.
can last a little bit longer than the 4 hours. And future life progressions are also 2.5 hours. So that's
Nice.
kind of how timing works for me. How about you, Sharon?
For a hypnosis session, it's an hour and a half to start, and then after that, an hour. So the initial session is an hour and a half, and after that, we only need an hour.
Because it's a
And
series.
a series,
Right,
yes,
right,
yes.
right, exactly.
And that's for hypnosis. For readings or just moving into a trance state, and we look at the lifetime together. And that's the difference between hypnosis and what I do in readings is during the hypnosis, I will guide you, as Wendy does as well, into the hypnotic state. And then you look at and guide you into a lifetime where you will see yourself. And then we'll guide you through whatever needs to be done with that and to heal that. But in a reading, you and I will go connect. I'll connect with you, and I will look at the lifetime. Sometimes it's might be difficult for people to look at traumatic lifetimes on their own. So of course we can always guide you to detach. But as we're working together in a reading setting, we will I will look at the lifetime and bring through all the information that way. I'm the channel, and the client is sitting there with me, and I would say 9 times out of 10 the client also is getting information as we're going, and it makes sense to them.
Sure,
Yeah,
absolutely. Because that just helps it land. That just helps them interpret it, and they know that it's real and it's accurate, and it's
right.
just helpful for them.
And that
Perfect.
can be, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but that can be anywhere from 90 minutes to an hour to 30 minutes. Yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And then question, can you record my session for me? So what do you do there, Sharon?
I record everything.
I do
Yeah.
too.
And the client gets a copy if they want it. Yeah.
Exactly. I record all sessions for
Yeah.
people, and I send every client their Zoom recording.
Mm-hmm.
So, and what are some of the best questions to ask during my session? Why don't I kick off with that one? What I recommend to people is I send them a little suggested format. It's just broken out into 4 categories, just to get the pen flowing, and just suggest to them that they just work with call in their higher self, call in their guides, even if they're like, oh, I don't know how to do that, or I don't know what that means. Just make the request. You just set the intent. And then as you look at the format, it's what health questions do you have? What wealth, finance, career type questions do you have? What relationship questions do you have? Because that's kind of the 3 big buckets for most people.
Mm-hmm.
And then a miscellaneous if they want to know about life purpose, or about interesting dreams, or interesting spiritual moments that they've had, or just wacky, wild experiences that they're trying to make sense of and want to ask about. And life purpose, as I mentioned. Also, if they want to figure out if they have any karma remaining, and best ways to transmute it, what that karma might be for, and with whom, if that's useful. Because again, it's your higher self and guides are architecting the experience. So every session is different. They are not cookie cutter.
Right.
Even though we may have some structure and some format, just to get the most effectiveness to it, there for most benefit for the client. And they're not cookie cutter. It's not like, okay, that's been 15 minutes with this, now we have to do this because that's my format. It's more flexible than that, because your higher self and guides are going to determine, do you need a lot of time in the healing temple, and is it quick to connect with the guide? You need a lot of time with the past life and a little bit of time up with the light in that place of all knowledge, or totally different, for different people. So those are my thoughts there. How about you, Sharon?
Yes, with my clients, I just ask them to be as open and allowing as possible, and also not to have any expectations. And if they have anything in particular that they would like to look at, to please write it down ahead of time, because it usually goes out the window. And I trust that their higher self and their guides will bring through whatever is of their highest good anyway. But it helps with focus. And I do tell them also that there are, like you said, there are no pat answers. Everyone is different. Every situation is different. And I ask them not to have expectations, because we don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. It's not from me. It's not from you. Yeah.
Exactly.
We're just the guides
And
and the translator,
the facilitators, right?
facilitator. Thank you. Yeah.
And that's what keeps the work so interesting, because it's such a privilege, because you get to see so many different epiphanies and so many different healing journeys, because we're all just so unique. Um, yes. So,
Totally.
all right. And so yes, those best questions. And also you can't forget or miss an important question, a best question. It's just going to come up naturally during the session. It's going to bubble to the top.
Hmm.
Um, and then your point about releasing expectations, so true, Sharon. I try and explain to people, you're going to get what you need, what you most need.
Hmm.
And that doesn't always match what we want. Because if you
Right.
want to see that groovy lifetime with Cleopatra, that may or may not be there, and that may or may not have a lot of energy that's going to therefore present. So it's not like you can go in with this checklist, like that. But we're humans. It's hard to let go of the expectations.
Yes.
So,
So we have a question from Carissa. Do your spirit guides change throughout your life? Do you have one that stays with you the whole time or multiple lifetimes?
oh, that's a fantastic question. You want to go first, Sharon, or shall I?
Sure. Yeah, with my experience, I have found that your spirit guides can change. And depending on what you are going through, because I understand that our guides are, there are people like us where they've had lifetimes, they've been in physical incarnations, and they've worked on themselves enough to where they can help people, just like guides here. And from, they help people from the spirit side, and you and that guide had an agreement that they would come forward to help you in certain areas. And so our guides have different specialties, just like we do here. Just like Sal in the rowboat that we were in, it was a rowboat now that I think about it. He had some specialty, which I don't know what his specialty is, but whatever it was that he helped me with, he was there for a moment. And I do believe that he was in the background around that time anyway. And so, yes, we do have different teachers or guides that come into our life. And do you have one that stays with you the whole time or multiple lifetimes? I do believe that we do have a main guide that probably meets us when we pass. And Journey of Souls talks about this, the book Journey of Souls, with Dr. Michael Newton, and Destiny of Souls. So we probably have a guide that's always in the background or always helps us in many lifetimes, and probably since our inception from Source, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
I agree with all that. There's a lot of variety to it. And I find some people have a wonderful generalist guide. They've got that one guide that's their go-to. And a
Mm-hmm.
guide, they're not omniscient. They can't know everything, but they can go and consult and get information from their guides
Right.
and get more information, or may send in Sal the specialist for that, that brief moment for whatever, because you needed to row your boat ashore metaphorically, or whatever was going on.
Right.
And so, and some people work with different guides, so and I can help them in session. Like maybe there's a special guide that's going to help them with their writing and like that aspect of a career. So there might be a specialty guide for that.
Mm-hmm.
Or there might be a guide that's really going to help them with their health. And there's overlighting divas too, that can assist, like with health and wealth and home and property, or of relationships. So they can be really neat as a type of like earth type of guide, where those divas, DEVA,
Mm-hmm.
not Britney Spears behaving badly diva, not that kind of diva. The other type of diva, that lovely fairy type being. So that can go on. But it's neat helping introduce people to their guides, because a lot haven't met them before, or they didn't feel that conscious connection. And some will say, oh, I've got a pretty good sense of my guide, but they might learn more about them, or they may have a new guide come in. Because when we expand and grow, there definitely can be new guides coming in. And as we heal and do soul retrievals, or as people pass on, they're becoming a new guide. So for instance, all of a sudden I was thinking about a former boss that I hadn't thought of in years. And I asked my guides, what's up with that? Why am I thinking about Frank? And they're like, oh, well, he passed on recently and he's asking if he can be a business guide for you. Well, guess
Nice.
what? He was the CEO of the hospital where I worked, and he
Mm,
was a magnificent manager and businessman and people person. So I thought, well,
hmm.
how neat, to get that little tap on the shoulder and realize he was offering to be a guide, when I
That's
wanted.
awesome.
Yeah. And another new guide that came in for me recently, it was a big deal to accept him, because he was a past life husband who had abused me horribly
Mm, hmm.
and was not a nice person. But don't forget, that's the persona, that's the one time. And we'd agreed to that role. And the job was for me to find my power, which I didn't do very, very well. So, therefore that was going on. So as I worked with the healer and as we sorted it through, I did say, yes, now that I understand who you are, now I'm seeing, the magnificent soul and higher self again. And I know you're with the light. And I did specifically ask, it's like, may I ask if this soul is incarnated on the planet? Because I was still a little bit reticent. And when I heard no, he's truly, up with the light and he's offering to help you with this and this and this, I was like, oh my goodness, yes, that would be wonderful. So I,
Nice.
I did agree to that too. So yeah, you may find them tapping you on the shoulder, and just figure it out, sort it
Hmm.
out, or if you need to work with someone else to figure it out, that's fine too.
Yes, totally. It's just like choosing teachers here, but normally you've
Yes,
made an agreement with them
yes,
on the other side, and
yes,
and you also have
absolutely.
we also have animal guides, animal helpers, animal guides,
Yes,
totems,
we do.
and also I found it interesting that when you're working with a group of people, that our guides will get together as well on the other side and work with us as a group, as within, with our group.
Absolutely. That's a
Yeah.
fantastic point. I
Hmm.
don't work with clients on shorter notice than a week. I
Hmm.
purposefully book sessions a week or further out. And it's exactly what I'm doing, is asking our higher selves and our guides to start working together,
Hmm.
because I feel we get a more effective session that way. And I completely respect, some people do the very, immediate, they're the spiritual ER,
Yeah.
emergency room, and they will book a session and help someone right that day, and they're in a different role, and that's fine and that's great too.
Yeah. Cool.
But yes, those totem animals, I love them. Just before we started today, this afternoon, I was out in my yard. I have a new puppy, so I'm out in the yard a lot more than normal. And this hummingbird just came in so close.
Nice.
And I was, I could just feel like just a lot of joy from it. It was just so fun to watch it and see where it was going to land. And I looked up totem, hummingbird totem animal meaning, and it was love and joy.
Oh, there you go.
Happiness. There it was. I thought, well,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just perfect. It's just perfect. But you can absolutely notice that. So if you're noticing an animal, suddenly crossing your path in unusual ways, or you're really noticing the squirrels playing, or anything, or it doesn't have to be physically either. It can be like on the internet or in
In your
commercials or
dreams.
in your dreams. Just look
Hmm.
it up. Look up that animal as totem animal. So like squirrel totem animal, or
Yeah, or
squirrel
signs,
totem
things like
medicine.
that. Billboard
Yep.
signs. I get, see those,
Yes.
anything, or in music. If something comes up in music too, they're sending you signs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So Carissa asked resources on animal guides.
I like Ted
I was
Andrews.
just going to say Ted Andrews. Yes.
Yep. Yeah, he's got some
Mhm,
great oracle cards and several books out on
mhm.
spirit animal guides, etc.
He's like the
So
guru. He's passed on. He's on the other side, but he's like the guru of animal totems and guides. He has a
yes,
huge, thick book. I think it's called Animal Speak. Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
yes,
Yeah, but
yes,
it's
exactly.
he's probably the big, yeah,
Yeah, I really like his materials. I think it's great. And
yeah.
I'm sure he's having a lot of fun on the other side, helping people and telling them, whispering in their ear, look it up as a totem animal. Look up totem medicine. To get people to just understand, because those signs and synchronicities are just all around us. So, all right.
Okay.
Any other live questions, Sharon, or shall I look for the next one here?
No, not yet.
Okay, perfect. So, can you see more than one past life in the same session? Is the next frequently asked question I hear. What's your experience
Yes.
with that?
Yes, definitely. And
Yes.
again, it depends. Everyone's different. Depends on also how intense the one is that we're looking at, or that how much it encompasses, and how your higher self and your guides would like you to work with it and bring through that information. But yes, I mean, I've helped clients with, maybe two or three in a
Mhm.
session. Yeah.
Mhm.
And my guides used to work with me in meditation, where we just bang them out like crazy, three or four in a meditative session.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
it depends. It depends on the lifetime.
It does. It does. I
Mhm.
agree. Because sometimes all you need is that, that quick flash and that quick realization. So it might
Right.
be less than 5 minutes. And I had one gal, I still joke that she set the land record for the most past lives visited during her session. But
Wow.
she is a past life reader and she's a spiritual teacher. So it made
Hmm.
perfect sense. But she saw 12 or 13. So
Ooh.
she just did this big cleanup, but they were only like, 5 to 7 minutes each. And it was just boom, boom, boom. And we were just working through them all, very, very quickly.
Hmm.
And she just said she felt like $1 million when we were done, because it was just, they'd been kind of like hanging around her, and she just hadn't been able to quite process
Nice.
through
Wow.
them all. So that was really neat. A typical person might see, one or two, but it
Hmm.
depends on the person. And like I said, sometimes it's those little snippets of information. And as you mentioned, Sharon, sometimes there's just literally reams. One past life regression, I got so much information about a past life that I was supposed to vividly recall, that I transcribed that whole past life regression with me as the client. And I actually had a follow-up one. It's a book. I mean, there was
Wow.
so much information. It's a
Wow.
book of
Nice.
that one past life, because that's what needed to come through. And there
Hmm.
was a lot of teaching in it, not just for me but for other people.
Hmm.
Of just it was a mystery school. So, and just a lot of it is now, it's 2000 years later, and it was just very appropriate to share and to remember, because those mystery schools, they were called that for a reason. I mean, it was meant to be kept to a select few.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
times have changed.
Hmm. Definitely.
So,
Thank goodness. Yes, I have memory of that. All right, so we
yes.
have time for maybe one more question, depending on the
Okay,
question. Yeah.
perfect. The last question then is, can we communicate with deceased loved ones or pets during a session? What's your
Well,
experience there?
in definitely in my sessions, because I'm a psychic medium. So yes, if you're talking about a past life, you can even do it then, because a lot of our loved ones are in past lives with us, even animals I've
Mhm.
found. And I actually had to
Yes.
do a few retrievals for an animal, a dog that was with me in this lifetime. and had been many different animals, companion animals with me in lots and lots of lifetimes. A horse quite a few times, a pet squirrel. I was a monk and I had a pet squirrel, and befriended a squirrel. The squirrel befriended me, I should say, and it was my dog, Venus. And so we can definitely come across relatives, deceased loved ones who show up in your past life as in another role or the
Mhm.
same role. And I
Mhm.
found that when I do readings with past life therapy in them, that their loved ones will come through many times and bring through information for a relationship that they had together that needed to heal in a past life, that they are the ones that are fostering that connection so that the person, the client, can heal that relationship from with them, even though they're on the other side, by being aware of the past life pattern that they had gone through.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And yes, I do see some loved ones come through. It just depends what the person, what their heart wants and needs, and what questions they're writing, what intent they have. But if there's unfinished business, they're very
Mm-hmm.
likely to come through, or we at least get information from the higher self and guides about them. It just brings that closure. It's just that easing, because often there's guilt or there's unresolved questions. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
reason that this is just bubbling up again. Or people may have lost children. There may have been a miscarriage, there may have been a crib death, whatever it might be, but they just may be very much wanting to connect
Mm-hmm.
with that soul. So that certainly comes up in sessions, and can just be very beautiful to see those resolutions. I have lots and lots of animals come through. And often they're coming in to help, but it also can be requests that the person has a cat, a dog, whatever animal now, and they're requesting a surrogate healing for it, or more insights about it, like if they've had
Oh, yeah.
past lives together before. So I've done quite a few. It seems to be dog healings recently, maybe because I've recently started fostering dogs and have been more active with the dog rescue, and now just adopted my first dog ever. Happy birthday to
Yay.
me.
Yay.
So, and she's passed out on the floor. So evidently she's going to be a lovely office dog. She's just laying here on her dog bed. A 3.5-month-old puppy.
Aw.
That's not normal, to just,
Yes.
it's like, okay, I'm kind of like fingers crossed. My
Well,
guide said this would work.
sounds like your calming energy is helping her out.
Well, and she's for a puppy, she's wonderfully chill. I mean, that's part of why I chose her, because of what I do for a living. It's like I need there to
Yeah,
be a fit with it being a chill puppy.
sure.
Yes, we get out there a ton of times too in the yard, in between. She's not just an office dog, but it's just a lot of fun. So thank you so much, Sharon, for providing this opportunity. Thank you to everyone for the wonderful questions. I can be
Yes.
reached via my website at wendyrosewilliams.com. And please join me on the wakingupspiritually.com podcast twice a month, live or via the podcast apps or the YouTube channel, etc. And you can request a complimentary 15-minute phone appointment via my website.
Nice. Yes. Thank you, Wendy, for being here and for the enlightening conversation as always. And, and also, thank you everyone for watching. And I have to say this because it's YouTube. Please remember to subscribe if you haven't already, and like our video and share if you enjoyed it. And thank you everyone. And we'll see you again soon.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.